Hello YouTube, Scamp the Wolf here, back with another video for your viewing pleasure, and figured I'd make this video. So these are going to be 5 albums from the past couple years that have not aged very well, in my opinion. So this is going to be in order by artist, so I'm not going to go through any particular order in terms of quality, so there's that. So first album that we have up, surprisingly, is Architects with the classic Symptoms of a Broken Spirit. Now, this album isn't bad. I don't think this album is bad, but it's very hard for me to remember anything past the first 2 songs, and maybe When We Were Young on this album. The rest of this material just doesn't really stick out to me as much as it should. You got Burn Down My House, which I remember being pretty good. But the rest of the album, it just isn't up to Architects' higher standards or whatever. I thought that previous album of theirs, For Those Who Wish to Exist, whatever it was much better than this. It is still a good album in terms of Architects doing their modern rock kind of thing or whatever, but in terms of that, but this is just a weak album in terms of Architects. In terms of Architects, modern stuff. This is still better than the Here and Now and Ruin, though, in my personal opinion. So, there's that. Next up, this isn't going to be a surprise for anybody. Disturbed with Divisive. Pretty much the same thing, only I feel like this album is a little bit worse, because I really cannot remember anything other than the first couple tracks on this album. I really haven't listened to this album that much. Even the Ann Wilson feature on the song Don't Tell Me, this is really just their weakest album, in my opinion. It's not a very strong album. It isn't bad or anything. It's just very mediocre, very generic. All the songs basically sounded like each other on this album. I remember that. And, it's just very, it's just very, forgettable. So, yeah, that's unfortunate for this album. Disturbed with their album Divisive. Again, probably their weakest album. Next up, we have a lesser known band, Ginger with Wallflowers. Now, out of everything that I have here, this is probably the best album on this list that I have. And I still think this album is pretty solid. Got Vortex, which is good. Sleep of the Righteous, which is good. As I Boil Ice. Colossus, Call Me a Symbol. Those songs are good, but again, this is pretty much sounds like their last album, which is their last album according to this video. So if they come out with a new album soon, whatever. But yeah, this is basically not as good as their last album, Macro, but I'll just give them a pass because this is the best album on the list, and whatever, they still have potential, in my opinion. They still have potential to do something that's a little bit different. So yeah, that's Ginger with Wallflowers. Next one here, Of Mice and Men with Echo, and this album is a dud. I really think this album is a dud from Of Mice and Men. Other than Timeless, which isn't even that good of a song anymore as I thought it was, I don't remember anything from this album. And what I do remember, it's generic. It's not up to Of Mice and Men's standards. If you want good Of Mice and Men, check out Defy and Restoring Force, and even Cold World. This isn't really going to do it. This feels very again, generic, very bogged down by like lyric writing, and it just doesn't do much for me. It doesn't. Like, I have not come back to this album since its release. Like, I barely have even come back to it. If I listen to Mice and Men, it's gonna be one of those previous albums that I mentioned. And their first two albums for the hilarity factor, I guess. But yeah, Echo by Mice and Men isn't a very good album, I hate to admit. This is probably the weakest album on this list. But I still have it because I'm somewhat of a fan of Mice and Men still, and I will continue to see if they can improve. So, Echo by Mice and Men. And finally we have Planet Zero. Again, one of the better albums on the list. It is a very solid album, I think. It's just not aged very well, in my opinion. No Sleep Tonight, Planet Zero, those are good songs. Dysfunctional You, I remember being pretty good. Other songs, though, I don't really remember too much. And I feel like this experiment that they did not turn out as well as it should have. And, like, I pretty much have the same thoughts that I had when I listened to this album for the first time. It's just a very unfocused album. Thankfully, if you saw one of my last videos, it's not as unfocused as that new Avenged Sevenfold album, which, ugh. But, I mean, this is still very, like, unlevel in my opinion. Like, you got songs like Dead Don't Die, which are generic, followed by songs like Sure It's Fun, which I remember being very weird, being very, like, and I think the lyric writing, Brent Smith went, like, whatever his name is, went way too deep into, like, the metaphors, and, like, this is, like, overly complicated, like, dude, chill down, okay? Like, whatever, I know this is a very somewhat complex kind of thing, but it's not, like, just lay off the poetry for a little bit, like, try to make an actual, like, set of lyrics. But those gripes aside, this album still okay. It's on the level Threat to Survival. It's mid, so that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for this video. So what are your guys' albums you would put on this list? All that good stuff. Let me know in the comment section down below. This is Scat the Wolf signing out. Take care.